žlutý?
Není, to...
Je tam vidět ten mikrofon?
Takhle není.
Oh, should I hold it?
No, I will hold it.
Okay.
You're good.
You can look at me. Please.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so what is your purpose in Europe right now? What are you doing here, and how do you like it so far?
We're on tour building the band's audience before we release our fourth album, which is going to come out later this year. So I haven't announced the record yet, but we're going to announce it really soon, and then we'll put out a record by the end of the year, and hopefully, if it gets popular enough, we can come back to Europe next year and do even more touring and bigger shows. I think it's already starting to build into something, so I'm very excited.
Great. Can we know the name?
Of the record? Yeah, I think we don't know what we're going to call it yet, but it's either going to be called Acid on the Dance Floor or Blame It on the Youth.
Tell me something about the Seattle scene, and if you can say some story from like a KXP sphere or something like this.
Sure. Seattle is an interesting scene. It can be a bit of a bubble because it's easy to get popular locally and then think you're a big deal. But it's a really difficult part of the United States to tour in because we're so remote. We're very far from most major cities. So it means there's a different culture there than there is in a lot of the rest of the country. I don't know what to compare it to. It's very hard. But people are really introverted and they're very much into the arts. So there's a lot of really intelligent people making and creating beautiful art. And it has some of the coolest bands in the whole country. Seattle's bands are fucking awesome. You know, we're really great friends with this punk band Monster Watch that we love. There's another grunge band that we know called Black Ends that was just on tour in Europe. Our friends are in a band called Spirit Award that just got signed to Sub Pop, and they'll be touring Europe in the fall. You should definitely check them out. But there's just such a cool culture for rock and roll in Seattle, and there's lots of venues in Seattle. So there's always something going on every night of the week. There's a few different shows, sometimes competing around town. People are going out every night of the week sometimes. It's really cool. But it can be very hard when you just do that to break out. So we've done a lot of touring outside of Seattle and around the country, and that's really helped launch us. And the other big reason our band has gotten attention in Europe is because of KEXP. You know, they put out our sessions, and then everybody around the world sees those sessions that they release and contacts us and is like, I want you to come play in Berlin. I want you to come play in Munich, you know, and that's how these shows started happening in Europe, was because of KEXP.
What's the vibe of Seattle?
What's the vibe?
Seattle? Oh.
What's the vibe?
It's rainy. It rains a lot. So I'm used to the rain, like, you know, that we were getting earlier. That was no big deal to me. It rains constantly. And it means that people can be really depressed. They get sad a lot. It just happens. We call it the, you know, seasonal depression. And it's very, very beautiful, though. It's surrounded by mountains on both sides. There's two different mountain ranges running on the east and west of Seattle. And it's also surrounded by water because we have, you know, the Puget Sound is part of the ocean. That's on the west side of Seattle. And on the east side of Seattle, we have Lake Washington. So there's just these massive bodies of water surrounding us, which means we just can see ocean and mountains and lakes, like everything. We have so many different climates in Seattle. And if you drive 20 minutes, 30 minutes outside of the city, you're in the fucking mountains, you know, hiking. Or skiing or snowboarding or something like that. It's wild. It's really, it feels like the wilderness once you leave the city.
Mm-hmm. So there was like a geographic side of the city.
Oh my God, yeah. If you come out there, you would have endless amounts of fun just exploring the wild nature around Seattle. There's a lot of poverty because it's gotten very expensive to live in Seattle, and it's been gentrified to hell. So, you know, we have Amazon and Microsoft and all these fucking tech companies, and they're making the rent more expensive. So people like me are having a harder time living in the city.
What is like a historical economic side of Seattle? What was the point why people start making business and living there?
Well, it was originally a logging town. You know, they were deforesting. You know, they were cutting down trees and making things with it. But then during World War II, the population exploded because Boeing the headquarters is in Seattle, and they were building all of the airplanes that they were using in the war in Seattle. So the population got really big there, and now, you know, it's almost 1 million people, And Boeing is still a big part of it. They still build airplanes for commercial use, but the biggest sector of the economy is technology. So it's all of these tech companies that really dominate the culture of the city, which sucks. It just fucking sucks. Sometimes it's the worst people who think that they know culture and they have no fucking culture. You can't buy culture, you know, and money doesn't buy taste. So you've got a lot of people who have no taste. They don't know how to fucking dress. They don't know how to interact with the city. They don't go to nightclubs. They don't go to rock and roll shows. They just kind of do their own thing. And it means that some of the stuff that made the city really cool is starting to disappear.
And this is still like the point of view that because we as Europeans view Seattle as a capital city of rock and roll in America.
Yeah.
Is it still like the main thing in the city? It's taken that way, or do Americans think that?
Máš třeba Austin and New York.
There's so many rock and roll cities in America. I
LA,
don't think Seattle's not rock and roll, but I definitely do think it has a lot of going on for it, you know? It's just the music scene is way more diverse than rock and roll. We have everything. Hip hop, folk music, all sorts of shit, dark wave, you know. We're doing every genre you can think of that we have in Seattle. It's a big music culture still, definitely. It's not quite the size, like Austin, Texas is fucking crazy and probably a lot more rock and roll than we are, but Austin has its own problems too, you know. And Portland is really fucking cool, and so is San Francisco and Los Angeles, you know, they're all great cities. America's competing with itself.
Yeah. Are you raving much at Seattle?
Do we have raves?
Yeah.
We have some. They don't happen as much as they used to because it's too hard to find a location, but they still happen. Yes, I actually just went to a rave in Berlin yesterday morning because I was still up from the night before.
In Berlin is the rave town of the world.
Yeah. We got done with our show at like 2 a.m. and we partied at the venue until 4, and then we took a cab to Sisyphus. You know this place, Sisyphus? Oh, it's this fucking awesome outdoor rave spot in East Berlin. And so we went and we danced until like 6 a.m. It was sunlight out by the time we left, you know. And we were all kind of dizzy on the cab ride home. It was cool.
Nice.